Ahorita se conecta, Mayevsky no me contesta. Hola, campeón, ¿cómo está? Campeón. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the WBC Talks. This is round number 85. And we're about to have a great talk about the WBC innovations in ruling. She's 𝗧𝗔𝗟𝗡𝗗. She's not with us today. But 𝗧𝗔𝗟𝗡𝗗, president of the World Boxing Council. Mauricio, how are you?
Very, very happy to be in round. Which round is this now? 82?
85.
Oh, 85. It's been 85 days of great activity, continuity, relations, having the boxing community communicated, being together through the WBC talks. And today we are going to have a special panel, and we're going to discuss what the WBC rules have done throughout the history of boxing. And for this, we're going to have dear friends like Don Mayevsky and Bill Kaplan. We're going to have Carlos Palomino, a legendary WBC welterweight champion, and also my brother Pepe, who is my boss, of course, who is the oldest of the 𝗧𝗟𝗡𝗗 family, and who is my dear brother who spent so many years with my father. So here's Victor. Let's have a great program.
Thank you, Mauricio. And now, as you said, Pepe 𝗧𝗟𝗡𝗗, the artist.
That's the black
Pepe, how are you?
The black sheep of the family, of course. I'm always fighting for people to know what the WBC is. Not only, the boxers are very proud to earn that green belt, but there's a lot of work, a lot of effort, a lot of hours and energy invested behind what the WBC is. And that comes down to the rules. The WBC has been the creator of modern boxing through the creation of the rules, because my father, he went to the convention because he was going to resign. He was general secretary, and he was elected, and he says, okay, I accept the election on one condition, that I have to be able to do implement my vision on boxing, which is safety and very strongly medical examinations and equality, because there was a different world of boxing before the WBC. So there's a lot of rules that have changed drastically the sport, and that have made it safer for the boxers. It has literally saved lives. So I was present. I used to go to conventions with my father, and I was present as many of them were made. So this is a video.
Before he used to go. Now I took him up.
Mauricio came in, just pushed me out, and so I remember many years ago I recorded a video for my father, of my father explaining some of the rules, and because it was for his 20th anniversary as WBC president. So maybe we can see what the WBC is in his words. We have a video of that.
I could go on and on and on, relating all the WBC's doings in the last 20 years. I could say that we created the 4-rope rings, the thumbless glove, the replacement of the mouthpiece, the prohibition of hemostatics, the extending of the apron to avoid the fighters going all the way to the floor, which had happened in the past, and countless other implementations that I believe that has placed the WBC as the leader of the world in the history of the sport in regards to safety. But I believe that what has been said is enough just to show that the priority of the WBC people, all of you here in this convention, and all those that could not make it this time, is the devotion of our lives for safety, for human equality, and to make boxing a sport that is not related anymore to the mafias and the smoke and all those things that really are not the zeal distinction of this noble sport of boxing, which is definitely a friendly hand extended to all the poor people of the world.
It's very it's incredible to hear his voice and see him. It's very, very nice. I'm very much looking forward. I see some iPhones connected, but I don't know who they are. Who is here with us? Is that Bill Kaplan?
My name is Bill Kaplan.
Okay, Uncle Bill, how are you? Why
I'm fine, thank you, Mauricio.
you cannot put your
Very
camera
fine.
on?
How do I do it? Here, Mauricio, I want the world to understand that in 7 weeks, I'm going to be 85 years old. And when I was a little boy, we had telephones, but they were telephones like you've never seen before. There were no computers. There were no electric typewriters. There were no nothing. What I'm trying to do is give an excuse as why I'm so stupid with these kind of things. So what do I push, Mauricio or Victor or anybody? Help me.
Can you see us on the screen? Can you see us? Or you can only
I'm
hear
in
us?
my car. I'm in my car.
Are
And
you
I'm
driving?
driving in my car.
Okay.
And what do I see on my screen? I see my steering wheel and my speedometer.
Okay, just forget about it and keep, if you're driving, let's just hear your voice and you listen to us and then you share stories with us.
That's a good break for everybody. It's a good break for everybody. Just hear my voice, don't see my face.
Okay. Is Carlos Palomino hooked also, campeón?
No, Carlos has problems. Now Paulina is with him trying to connect him.
Okay. Okay, so we're going to continue. This introduction is unbelievable. The WBC was formed in Mexico, 1963, with 13 countries affiliated. My father was elected president in 1975, and there were 23 countries affiliated. And today, the WBC has 166 countries affiliated, with 2 more in the process of affiliation, which is Andorra and Israel. And this is something that will be done at the convention. So I am very excited to see, as Pepe mentioned, and then my father mentioned, the WBC's only priority is safety. And the way that the WBC has gone through the safety changes having through medical research and medical recommendations. We have a video in which Don Jose explains the medical committee creation and what is the basis for all the changes in the WBC. So let's see that one.
Respond to him. Text them back. You were just in. Oh my God. You were just in. I heard him talk.
One of my first recommendations in 1975 was the creation of a WBC World Medical Advisory Board. Thanks to that extraordinary group of philanthropic people, is that the WBC has changed
Should be there. Get up.
as nobody ever whatsoever in the history of the sport ever did before.
I remember many great doctors who led
That's our house.
the.
Mauricio,
Hello.
I think Carlos is here.
Hola,
I'm
campeón. How are
Perdón.
you?
Good, good. Thank you. It took me a while to get in. I'm sorry. I'm not technically savvy, but I finally got in.
Well, you look very well. You look very
Thank you.
well.
Thank you.
How are you doing, champ?
I'm doing really well. Thank you very much. Everything is good.
That's great. This program is dedicated. Are you aware of the WBC talks of what we've been doing?
I've heard about it. Yes, and I got an explanation a little bit yesterday, but I've heard about it. I know you guys are doing a lot of great work, and that's really good as far as I'm concerned for fighters. You know, for young, absolutely, especially the young up and coming boxers who, you know, you think you're made of steel and you don't think anything's ever going to happen. So it's always good to have rules in place that'll protect fighters.
Excellent. So you are part of a very nice panel. We have Bill Kaplan on the phone, who is driving, so we cannot see him. And we have just Don Majeski coming in from New York City.
A little late.
How are you, Don?
Very well, thanks. How you guys all holding up?
Great, great. So you're here with Carlos Palomino and with Bill Kaplan.
Good.
And the topic of today is basically the rules and the regulations that the WBC has implemented throughout the years, which have changed the sport of boxing.
One second, put my light on.
No, you're looking good.
Oh, well. I should make it darker. Might be better for me. Okay, great. All right.
So you all have been, you are boxing historians. Of course, Palomino, legendary champion. He fought in the 12-round era, in the
15-round era.
I'm sorry, 15-round era.
Yeah.
In the day of the fight weigh-in, he fought when there was no, I believe you used 6 ounces gloves, right? When you fought.
That's correct. London, England, 6-ounce gloves. In the United States, there were 8-ounce gloves.
We have seen videos in which even heavyweights wore 8-ounce gloves. So what if we were to be put back in a time capsule and go to the 70s and even the 80s, boxing was very much different. And what we're doing, we're putting short videos from my father explaining some of these changes. So we're going to talk about the 12-round rule. We're going to put my father's video, his explanation, and then we're going to hear from you on your opinions, your thoughts, your memories, any anecdotes, etc. So let's go with the 12-round video.
I believe that without a doubt, the WBC rule that has given us more satisfaction and pride has been the 12-round rule. 𝗥𝗢𝗨𝗡𝗗, after 14 rounds with Alan Minter, had a fatal accident. Dooku Kim also in the 14th round. Johnny Owen on the 13th round. And there were many occasions that we had also to see how in the last rounds of fight, the boxers pounded so much to each other that they ended going to the hospital and acquiring irreversible injuries on such dramatic 15-round bouts all the time. The WBC created the 12-round rule. I believe that I have personally never in my life received so many attacks. I was even almost called a criminal. But today, the 12-round rule stands as one of the most important rules in the history of world championships. Muhammad Ali, Sugar Ray Robinson, told me face to face that that rule was one of the best ever. And there were nobody in the world with more authority to say that, because both of those boxers went the distance of the 15 rounds more than any other boxer in history.
Don Majeski,
Yes, sir.
tell us, what do you think about 12-round rule? Anything that you would like to comment?
Well, you know, we've started out in boxing where there were no limit to the amount of rounds they fought. And under Queensberry, probably they started at 45 rounds. And then in New York in 1896, 25 rounds. And they went to 20 rounds. And then finally settled on 15 for championship fights and for many European and British title fights. But there were many 10-round title fights, you know, in the past as well. Dempsey and Tunney, which were the biggest crowd up to boxing up until that time, 120,000 people, was a 10-round fight. The first fight in Philadelphia, the rematch in Chicago. So one of the big arguments against the 12 rounds, oh, it's going to affect the gate, it's going to have an impact. And I remember when your father was discussing this, we brought many examples of that. As an anecdote, I remember very well watching a fight on TV with Dooku Kim and Boom Boom Mancini. I remember Butch Lewis and I watching that together. And after the fight, when he was killed, Butch said, you know what they should do, make 12-round fights. And we called your dad. He said, I had the same idea. And after he adopted it, Butch Lewis, who was a traditionalist and had Michael Spinks, who did well as the fight progressed, was against it. So he ended up trying to fight 15-round fights up until the very bitter end. But the whole world was against your dad, and eventually the WBA, then the WBO, and finally the IBF accepted it. It's very ironic that the United States, again, which is supposed to be the most progressive country in the world, was one of the last holdouts against the 12 rounds. And just briefly to say, you know, when you look at fights from years ago that went 20 rounds and some fights 40 rounds, the pace was totally different. So you could say these guys knew they were going that limit. They weren't going out to kill the fighter with every punch. What changed in boxing in the last 50, 60 years was that everybody wanted to score knockouts. You taught guys to go be aggressive, fight for the full 3 minutes of every round. So when they started fighting 15-round fights, there was much more energy expended. Fighting a different kind of fight when they fought longer distance fights. So the 12 rounds really helped it. You could fight at full acceleration at 100% of your best and not worry about being exhausted. It's one of the great rules. And everybody said it would never stick, but it did. That's a remarkable achievement. I've always said that's what your dad's legacy will be. Of all the wonderful things he did, that's his legacy.
Thank you. Campeón, champion.
I have a question, Mauricio. Mauricio,
Yes,
I have a
Antonio.
question. It was my understanding that in the old rules, that when a fighter got knocked down, if he wasn't able to get up to the 10 count, the fight was over. But if he was able to get up, that was the end of the round, and his corner would come out and drag him to the corner, and then they go to the next round. So the rounds weren't necessarily 3 minutes long. Didn't they end at a knockdown, Don?
Well, that was in bare knuckle box. That was London Prize Ring, but Queensberry rules were always 3-minute rounds. So you didn't have that. Once they started Queensberry, you would stop at the 3 minutes. Where they started with gloves. Gloves at that time, some of them were 2-ounce gloves, by the way. So that was just like wearing, you know, whatever, something you go golfing.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Campeón, you fought 15 rounds
Yes.
several times. And,
I had nine 15-round fights in my career.
9 15 rounds. And what is your opinion?
Well, you know, I always, as a fighter, and the fact that I was always in great shape, you know, I never stepped in the ring thinking that the other guy would be in better shape than me. I always felt like the 15 round was the 15 round championship distance. But then after I became a fan and I sat and watched, I watched the Mancini fight, and I felt like there was something was needed, and that 12 round limit I thought was great, because I know a lot of these guys were getting hurt in the later rounds. So I thought it was just a brilliant idea to cut it to 12, because it's still no joke, to go 12. I know main event fights, sometimes, as you're coming up, as you fight 10 rounds, several times in your career before you get a title fight and fight 12. So those 2 extra rounds, they're those 6 minutes mean a lot. And so I thought that 12 round, making it a 12 championship fights, 12 rounds was a great idea to protect fighters. And that's what I'm all about, watching these young kids coming up. It's just making sure that they're going to be okay in their careers.
Thank you. Do you recall any moment during a fight where you felt exhausted, or is it that you were always in great shape, that you were ready to go?
Yeah. I never felt like I couldn't finish 15 rounds, but there was a couple of fights that went the distance that were very difficult. The first Armando Muniz fight, that went 15 rounds at the Olympic Auditorium, was grueling, because it was a non-stop action fight for 15 rounds. Neither one of us wanted to back up. Neither one of us wanted to lose. And I remember going home after that fight, and my whole family was in the house, and my dad and my uncles, and they were all, making menudo and cases of beer. And I was like, I'm just going to bed, you guys, okay? I'll talk to you tomorrow.
That was a very historic fight, because not only was it a great fight that we had in Los Angeles at the Olympic Auditorium, like Carlos said, but it was the first time in anyone's knowledge, and believe me, all the PR guys, we said it over and over and over again coming up to the fight and afterwards, it's the only time 2 college graduates fought. Both of them college graduates. Thank God they're both still around. They're both still smart. But I mean, can you imagine 2 college graduates were in the ring and they had an all-time great fight?
Yeah, I remember the commentators. Jim Lampley, not Jim Lampley. What was his name?
I think Larry Merchant, wasn't it? Or
what was that?
Jim Healy. Jim Healy.
I remember Jim Healy saying, "What is this coming to? 2 college graduates boxing for a world title." Yeah. So, I remember that fight, and just being grueling. And but you know what else? If that fight had been a 12-round fight, I would have lost.
Yeah, that's destiny. My father. I'm sorry, Don.
Carlos, did you stop him in the rematch? Was that in the 12th round or something? Or
no, in the first fight I stopped him in the 15th round. With
right, 15th. Yeah.
20 seconds to go, and in the second fight, it went the distance and I won a decision. But the first fight was just a lot more grueling than the second fight.
And my father used to say
another comment. No, go ahead.
Go ahead, Uncle Bill.
Mauricio, I was going to say that Carlos's manager, many of us, especially people on the West Coast, consider him to be the greatest manager and trainer of all time, Jackie McCoy. Jackie developed 5 world champions. 5 world champions. Not he took them over in mid-career. He developed all those 5 kids. They all were legitimate world champions, and they were always in great shape. Jackie's fighters. And Jackie, not because he was like a Marine drill sergeant where he would call you nasty names and insult you and everything. Jackie was so intelligent but his fighters listened to him. They believed in him, and they came in fantastic condition. And Carlos was just one of the great examples of Jackie McCoy's work.
Yes, absolutely. And my father used to say that fighters, they are gladiators, they are warriors. They would fight 50 rounds, 100 rounds if they were permitted to. They would fight 10-minute rounds, whatever it takes. It is not up to the fighter. It is up to us to make the rules, because they are willing to do anything to win and to succeed. So that is the main reason of the rules. We're going to watch a video regarding the weigh-in.
Before that, there's even a group of doctors that want to take it further, right, Mauricio? They want to bring it down to 10 rounds. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but that's what the doctors, wish it was.
The recommendation was to go 10 rounds, because the medical study, what they say, after the 10 round, the physical strength changes, and after the 12 round, it's simply not a human being fighting inside the ring. So let's watch the video.
And also, I'm sorry, Mr. President, I respect you so much, and I'm interrupting you too much, but I wanted to say that also Butterbean would like it to be 4 rounds.
Yeah. Absolutely. And please, we're here to listen to you. So anytime you like to say something, go ahead, please. So we're going to watch the video of the weigh-ins.
There has been one other rule that I consider one of the very best since the institution of the WBC. Together with the intermediate divisions, to avoid the weight sacrifices, I remember, and many people remember, once when Rubén Olivares, a Mexican champion, just could not sleep. He was so thirsty, waiting for the morning to go to the weigh-in, when suddenly he didn't care. He just got up, went to drink as much water as he could. He went to bed. He didn't care. Obviously, the following morning, his weight reduction came almost to be considered inhuman. Also, many boxers have in the past explained how many problems they have. They cannot sleep all night, thinking of the first rival of the following day, which was the scale. For that reason, and under a medical recommendation, is that the WBC created the weigh-ins the eve of the fights. In this manner, boxers would rehydrate, would sleep all night, would rest, would be in such a position that the following day they would go into the ring stronger, and definitely a respect to the boxing fans of the world who paid the ticket to go and see a fight where boxers are at optimum conditions. So we think that the weigh-ins on the eves are also one of the best things that WBC has ever done.
Who would like to go first?
Well, I'd say this is one point where I disagree. I think the weigh-in should be the day of the fight. I believe that boxers are fighting in the wrong weight class 90% of the time. And I said a disproportionate amount of influence on the amateur boxing and on trainers who have taken more control over boxing from the managers. And the example I'll give is this. We know that heavyweights, which is an open class, and we've discussed about maybe an intermediary class after 200. It's another story, but they're getting bigger. Men are 6'5". They're heavyweights from the time they're 16. They grow into giants today. Men are bigger. But a middleweight in 1909 was 160 pounds, and the middleweight today is 160 pounds. A welterweight in 1909 was 147 pounds, and a welterweight today is 147 pounds. A lightweight in 1909 was 135, and a lightweight in 2020 is.
I think you made your point.
But what's changed is this: a middleweight in 1909 was 5'7", 5'6". Now he's 6'1". A welterweight, and I'm sure Carlos met many of these great former fighters when he was champ. Jimmy McLaren was around L.A. Young Corbett III. They were about 5'4". They came up from flyweights, McLaren. They were smaller men at a lighter weight. I think trainers are forcing fighters into unnatural weights. A fighter with 17 weight divisions should never have to struggle to make weight. You can go up 3 pounds and be in a weight that you're comfortable at. So I don't think the fighter should be. And what we have now is you see all the time, the weigh-in the day before, one fighter will come in 20 pounds heavier. They dehydrate themselves to the point even the night before. And there was a famous case with Arturo Gatti and Joey Gamache, where Gatti was 155 pounds the day of the fight, and Gamache was 141. And it was a junior welterweight fight when they weighed him before getting in the ring. So I think with 17 divisions, no one should ever have to struggle to make the weight. They're fighting in the wrong weight class.
Don, that's
and Gotti almost killed him.
That's correct.
And Gotti almost killed him. There was a lawsuit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a long protracted lawsuit against the New York Boxing Commission. And look, Don, I remember when you were a kid, I mean a teenager, and you used to fly out from New York. I think Don Chargan, the great Don Chargan, told me, I said, who is that kid? He says, oh, he's a kid from New York. He knows everything about boxing, and he's only, I remember, 16 or 17. I says, he flies out from New York. Does he come from a rich family? He said, no, his mother works for the airline.
Right.
But when you came out as a kid, you were one of these kids that knew all the stats, all the history. You still do, and I respect that, but I couldn't disagree with you more.
Okay.
Absolutely could not disagree with you more, because managers and fighters and trainers are going to continue to do what they always have done, and what, at least in modern times, and that is get one up on the other guy. And sure, if you're a natural middleweight, we're going to dry you out to welterweight. It's going to happen. You can't stop it. But the one thing that you can do is give that fighter another 24 hours to rehydrate. And I think it's one of the most important rule changes in the history of boxing.
I think it's
I have spoken. I agree. I agree. As a fighter, I agree with that. As far as trainers and managers, making fighters cut weight, below what. I remember as an amateur in the Army, I fought a couple of fights 147, and then when I got to the All Army boxing team, they made me come down to 139. And I used to catch hell making 139, but it was only 3 rounds as an amateur. So when I got out of the Army in 1972 and turned pro, I went right to 147, and I never had a problem making weight until maybe later in my career when I got, with the Duran fight. As I got a little older, it was more difficult to make weight, but I was always very strong after making weight at 147. I never had a problem, but I know a lot of guys do. A lot of guys have to really sacrifice to cut weight. Right. And in my opinion, I think that a lot of the injuries that happen in boxing are more about a fighter cutting weight and dehydrating and being weak the day of the fight.
Yep, because that's my point. They are not fighting in the right weight class. And as Bill said, they'll try everything, but you got to change that culture. That's what's wrong. The culture of the manager, the trainer, forcing him to an unnatural weight.
Don, let's keep this. This is great interaction. It's great. So I like the way very much that it's been put. You have very valid concerns. And what we do as an organization is try to attack those concerns. Mm-hmm. What do we do in WBC fights? We ask the fighters to weigh in 30 days before, 14 days before, 7 days before. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That is a direct act action against weight cutting. We ask the fighters to be available to wait at any given time, even if they don't have a fight schedule. So we know what weight they're walking on. So we understand the weight cutting. We are fighting against anti-doping. We're doing the clean boxing program. So there's practices that some have used to reduce weight. That's an illegal practice. So we are addressing that situation. It is unfair to take one example of a fight that happened 25 years ago and make it as if it's a regular thing.
No, but there are many examples of this happening.
Oh, I agree. Many, 4 or 5, against the thousands. So I believe if you talk to any fighter, what it is a night before. Carlos, please tell us what it is when you are having problems to make weight and you know you have the weigh-in next day, plus the pressure of having to fight Roberto Duran.
Yeah, well, it's difficult. Like they were saying before, it's really hard to sleep. You're dry. You can't drink any water. And what I used to do was just you just put water in your mouth and you spit it out.
But Carlos, let me ask you this: how tall are you?
I'm 5'9".
5'9". Okay, so why weren't you fighting at 154 or 160? That's more comfortable for you. Why wouldn't you fight at that?
But it wasn't. I'm not. I made 139, so 147 was very comfortable.
So you shouldn't have had to drain out to make 47.
Well, as I got older, that happened. As I got older, it was more difficult to make weight. But early in my career at 147. Right. Even the title fight against all my title fights, I pretty much made weight pretty easy. Right. I never had a problem making 147. It got a little more difficult. The Duran fight, even though the Duran fight was the weigh-in was the day before, so I had time to hydrate and feel better. But still, the night that before the weigh-in is the most difficult night because you can't drink anything, you really can't eat, and you check your weight and then you just go to bed. But I had the experience because I 2 years in the Army, I had to fight at 139 pounds, and sometimes fighting at that weight, I used to have to sleep in plastic sweats to make weight.
But then you were at the wrong weight, is my point. You could have fought another division or 2 divisions.
Exactly. I used to beg.
Yeah. Well,
Pat Nappy was the Army boxing coach. Pat Nappy, who led the 1976 Olympic team, was our coach in the Army. And he was the one who told me you can make 139. And he said, if you don't make 139, you can go back to your regular base.
I think we should create divisions by height, not weight. The 5'10" division, the 6' division, that maybe makes more sense. The 5'6", because then you have because they're doing this because they want a guy with a long jab has the advantage in the reach, because that comes from amateur boxing. What's amateur boxing about? Jab. It's like fencing.
Yeah, that's right.
And get over the side. That's what they want. You're not a body beautiful. 100 years ago, Sam Lang was 5'8" and fought heavyweight.
Don,
I couldn't disagree with you more.
I have to excuse myself. I have a meeting at 10 o'clock and I'm going to have to run right now. So I apologize, but I'm going to have to get off now.
Thanks, Carlos.
Carlos,
yeah,
we have a meeting pending with you. We have your belt, your replacement belt. And I just wanted to tell you that we have it here. And once this craziness of this world goes back to normal, we're going to do a very beautiful ceremony for you in California and replace that beautiful green and gold belt for you.
Oh, thank you so much.
I'm applauding that.
Thank you very much.
I'm applauding that.
Because Carlos, all right, Bill.
Carlos is not only a great fighter, but a great citizen. He served 2 years in the Army. He graduated college. He now trains fighters. And he's a great example. So boxing, and for you to do that, I applaud that. Now,
Well,
Don,
I don't
I
really
couldn't
train
disagree
fighters.
with
I
you
work-
more.
I
Wait a
work-
minute. Wait a minute, Don.
I work with at risk.
You want to do it by height? You
Yeah.
want to do it by height? Then tell Tommy Hearns that he should fight heavyweight. He's 6'2", and
All right,
Tommy
thank you.
Hearns, you're
Bye-bye.
6'2". You should go in and fight heavyweight.
Tommy Hearns fought light heavyweight, though. He did.
Yeah, when he was a young kid. When he was a young kid, he was 6'2", and he turned pro as a welterweight.
He's the
He
great
won the
exception.
welterweight title.
He's the great exception to the rule, like Mauricio said. We're making one example, but I'm saying, well, ostensibly, that's what we're doing. We are making divisions based on trainers are making fighters. How do you determine what the weight is of a fighter, Bill? How do you determine? If you were going to fight tomorrow, what would you be? A heavyweight? You're a heavyweight. Would you fight a heavyweight? That's what you are. How do they
No, I'm a
determine-
super heavyweight,
So a
Don.
guy walks in the gym
But-
and like
but-
a Pat
But if
Napkin-
you have a guy that's 5'10",
Yeah.
and yet he has a very thin body type and he's a bantamweight, you don't tell him you're 5'10", you have to fight middleweight, not bantamweight.
But that's
I mean,
but
Don, I couldn't disagree with you more.
Basically, that's what trains it. Look, this came about why? Because 100 years ago, we had 8 divisions. There was a famous story of Joe Gans, who had to make weight 3 times at ringside. It basically killed him. He fought 42 rounds with 5-ounce gloves, no mouthpiece, no cup, and with battling Nelson, 106-degree heat. It was crazy. Guys killed themselves to make weight because they had 8 divisions. Now you got 17 divisions. No fighter has to fight it in a natural weight, but the trainers still force them to do so. So Carlos just said about
And they'll never stop.
Well, then
And they will never stop.
We have to stop. The culture is what's wrong. We have to change the culture. That's
Don,
what's wrong. They
Don-
have to stop because they're wrong. They're wrong. It's a culture that's wrong.
Don, I
Well,
think
the
there's
Department,
nothing to do with that.
the
with rule.
Department of Neurosurgery of UCLA disagrees with you, Don, because neurology and neurosurgery, who the WBC has worked with for many years, and the WBC has contributed millions of dollars to research at that department, they disagree with you. They're talking about rehydrating and rehydrating.
I'll agree with them too.
Yeah.
Don, I think
Yeah.
we're talking about.
This fight is a no contest because they're not in the same weight class.
What's that?
Don and Bill, no contest.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
he's a heavyweight. There's
That's-
on me. I'm a middleweight.
Yeah,
He's a
that's
heavyweight,
for
super
sure.
heavyweight. He's got all the advantage over him.
But
Don, I'll wrestle you. I'll wrestle you. Yeah. I will wrestle you tomorrow, but I won't box with you.
Well, you can check. I'll race you anytime. It's got to be downhill.
I think, Don, I think we're talking about 2 different things.
Yeah.
I mean, the rule is right. I want to see a fighter that rests properly, that is ready to fight, that didn't have any problems to sleep because the weight. I think the rule is okay.
That's
But
right.
I think that you are okay too. We have to teach the fighters to fight in the right division, but that doesn't take away the rule from waiting 24 hours before. I want to see a fighter in his best.
Yeah.
So the best thing is that they will fight in his natural division,
Correct.
with having 24 hours to sleep, to rest, and to think in the fight and not think in the way in. That's what I think.
Also, let me say something.
Absolutely.
Let me say something. Naturally, our body creates 1 pint of encephalic fluid to the brain. 1 pint every day.
Right.
So when you do
That's
the
right.
weigh-in the day of the fight, you do not allow that encephalic fluid to be replenished by the time of the fight. The weigh-ins used to be 6 hours before the fight or
Sometimes
4 hours
ringside.
before the fight.
At the ringside, they would do it, Mauricio. I've
So-
had that. Yeah.
So I am absolutely certain that this rule is very good. If it is being abused, we are attacking that abuse, and now through education, we can accomplish your concern, which is very valid.
Because
Okay,
even with
let's
the
go.
video-
Let's see a video that has to do with this, which is the intermediate weight classes. Let's see what 𝗧𝗔𝗨𝗡𝗗 had to say, Don.
Okay.
El
Gilbert?
video de pesos intermedios, por favor. I think Gilbert is expecting more back and forth.
Action, yeah.
We're ready.
Gilbert, ¿sí está el video?
Well,
Okay.
Who can forget
Mande,
the years that the
mi
Mexican
cartera
boxing
está allá arriba, no tengo nomás esa foto.
is a bantamweight, being subjected to inhuman sacrifices for weight reductions? He couldn't move up the 4 or 5 kilograms at the time from the bantamweight division to the featherweight division. And that was one of the bases why we decided to start and open the intermediate divisions. Thanks to this WBC decision, it has been that some of the greatest fighters of the last 2 decades have become heroes of the world of boxing. I would like to remember Wilfredo Gomez, who was the super bantamweight, Julio César Chávez himself, who is the super lightweight champion of the world, who can now put aside Ricardo Lopez, who is called the finest pound per pound of today, and so many others that conquered the championships of the intermediate divisions. I believe that that has been not only for the safety of boxers, but also to proclaim some of the greatest boxers that have ever lived.
So here's one issue: a fighter to move up, giving advantage, or a fighter to stay in that division, sacrificing too much, and that's some of what you were saying consistently done.
Yeah. Look, and you know, my big advocacy this year is for creating a division between 200 and 225 pounds, because we've eliminated an entire generation of fighters who really could be champions and making money in a division that's humane, because we have an open division from 200 to infinity. You can fight a 300-pounder. Valuev was a heavyweight, 320 pounds. In theory, a 202-pound fighter could be fighting him. There's need to move into that, but I think intermediate divisions, I didn't like even to call them intermediate, they're legitimate divisions. A super bantamweight is just as legitimate as the middleweight division. A super flyweight is legitimate as the welterweight division. No, it's a bona fide division. I think that was one of the great things we did. And people would say, oh, the public won't accept it. Look at the response from the public. You have great fighters fighting, they're going to accept it. And they can fight at an optimum weight, like we talked about, making the weight. Now they have the choice that they're not going to be constrained. And that killed many fighters physically and their careers that just couldn't go up those extra pounds, and there was no opportunity to do so.
And you've been very heavily, strongly proposing that we look into the heavyweight situation. So you feel that from 200 to leave it open is unfair for a generation of 200 to 220. Is that?
Yes, I firmly believe that. Well, look at it. I mean, you've got guys who develop and they're never going to be able to compete. It's just that the weight is too great. We have 5 divisions between 108 pounds and 118 pounds. We have 1 division between 200 and an infinity. That's just doesn't make sense today. With these super heavyweights who are walking around 240, 250, what does the guy do? He can have great skill. You've got the 𝗧𝗔𝗟𝗞𝗦, who's a terrific fighter. I don't see how he can compete with a guy with equal ability. There's the old saying, a good big man beats a good small man. He might be exceptional, but he'll have to put out so much more energy and expend so much to concede 20, 30 pounds, 40 pounds, that what chance he may have, it's going to be eliminated. And I think there's a generation of fighters starting from 4 rounds that could never develop because of that. They're always at a tremendous disadvantage. But before finishing on that, I do hope that we make that division. It's not going to be called super cruiserweight or junior heavyweight, because that's made those divisions suffer for many years. People dismiss them as inferior, and they're not. So I'd like to get an identical name for that title, whatever you come up with, that gives that its individuality and its own personality and its own history to begin with, not as a subdivision of a cruiserweight or heavyweight division. But I think it's absolutely essential.
There was a report a few days ago talking about the heavyweights. Jack Dempsey, he was 180, correct?
Yeah, about 183. Yeah, he would have been below cruiserweight, basically, a light cruiserweight.
Rocky Marciano, Floyd Patterson.
All of them were.
They were in the 80s.
80s, yes.
Yeah.
90%,
they were in the 80s.
90% of every heavyweight champion, Jack Johnson, Muhammad Ali, they would be under 220, 225 pounds. At their peak, there were certain fights afterwards, but when they won the title, 90% of every heavyweight champion would have been under that weight class. So it just, people are naturally bigger, but we have never made a position for that. What do you think, Bill, about that?
I think it's a pretty good idea, Donna, and the name, it's a natural name, super heavyweights. Over 225 or super heavyweight.
I don't think we should do that, because I think the heavyweight division should always remain the ultimate prize, and but the history and tradition is so great. We've got to come up with something, whether it's Gladio weight, Juggernaut weight, I don't care what we call it, but something. I think the heavyweight division, because of its history, should always be the heaviest division in boxing. And there's enough words in the English language. It doesn't even have to be English. It could be Spanish. It could be Japanese. Boxing is a worldwide sport. It could be Chinese. We don't care what the word is, but I think it has to be identical. But I think to tarnish the heavyweight, that's the ultimate prize and has always been in boxing for 200 years.
Let me ask you and Bill, why is the name cruiserweight? How did that cruiser name came about? Do you know?
Because a ship was a cruiser.
Your father.
Oh. The English used to call the light heavyweight division. That was the cruiserweight division originally, because it was a ship, like a battleship between a battleship and a smaller ship was the cruiser. So it was the intermediary kind of.
The smaller ship's a destroyer.
Destroyer. So between the destroyer.
The cruisers were between destroyers and battleships.
Right. So that was it. Yeah. So a destroyer weight.
But that was your father that created the division, Mauricio. You of course know that, and most of us know that. It was another one of his brilliant innovations.
Yeah, but the name, how it came about to be cruiser. Pepe, do you know? Do you remember?
No, I don't know.
No.
Well,
I've been wondering that also.
Yeah, the English used to call it the cruiserweight division when they started, like 1909. They referred to the light heavyweight as the cruiserweight division. It never caught on over here. There were a few claims to it. So I guess maybe they discussed that when revived it. But that was the great thing. They gave it its own name. They didn't make it. They were, I think, the WBA for a while called it junior heavyweight. Now people adopted cruiserweight, but it had its own identity. So many years, if you look at the history of in the United States, when they revised the lighter divisions, the junior lightweight about junior belt 1959, the junior lightweight about the same time. Then they started with the junior middleweight 1960s, the WBA in 62, right before WBC started. They were always, there was not a championship in those divisions, maybe one title fight in all those divisions of the United States for almost 25 years, because people dismissed it as inferior because of the name junior. You changed it to super. But I think giving cruiserweight its name did a lot to give an identity to that title. That's why I say if we go from cruiser to an intermediate division, it has to have its own name. I will say something that I did disagree a little bit, Mauricio. I like the idea when you had the strawweight division. I don't like the idea when you change it to minimum, because again, strawweight was identical. Nobody can tell you what a welter is, but it's an identical division. It's got its own personality. Welterweight.
Please propose in writing to the WBC that we go back to strawweight.
I will. I like that. Really, it gives it. That's what it is. Minimum. Then there's they always confuse the minimum weight, and then there's the next division up. I like the strawweight. It had an identity, whether they liked it or not, it gave it its own personal identity. Yeah.
Okay, I like it. I like it. We have a problem with
Paul Banky is watching this show. If you want to say hi to him.
Hello,
Paul. Hello, Paul. One of the nicest fighters. And by the way, Zaragoza is going to do an exhibition with Chiquita Gonzalez on July, at the end of July. And we were talking to them yesterday, and Paul Banky name came out. They fought two brutal fights, and Paul is a warrior, one of the best and the nicest. We dearly care for Paul. Hello, Paulie. And I don't know what I was going to say. Pepe interrupted me, but Paul is more important. We have a video about the belt, what the WBC belt is. So, Gilbert, if you can show, please. Before he puts it, we should do this round 2. You two are such great. Okay, let's see.
In the old days, champions of the world had a trophy or only the public announcement, but no symbol of their becoming the greatest thing that could happen to a boxer, a champion of the world. So in 1976, right after Tunis, we implemented the championship belt, which was green, which is the color of the WBC. And that has been today one of the most popular things by anybody in the sport of boxing. And I can tell you with pride that no champion of the world can claim himself to be the champion if he has not gained the green championship belt of the WBC.
You know, in the past, there were belts, but the champions would not get to keep them. If they lose the belt, they take it away. And in the 76 was the introduction.
Yeah, in the ring.
In the ring.
In the ring.
They pass it along to the new one.
Yeah.
What is your?
But now the point is, Mauricio, now they can keep their belt. Once they're a champion, they can keep their belt, and you give the new champion a new belt. Is that right?
Exactly. That's it. Yes.
Yeah, it's a great
So
heirloom for a fighter.
I was saying we have to do a few more of these programs because the knowledge that both of you can share. I'd like to ask you, who are the top 10 boxing historians in the world? Who would you say?
Don Majeski.
Alive.
Don
alive.
Majeski.
Victor Cota is a brilliant historian. Joe Kozumi is a brilliant historian. You know, my friend Herb Goldman, Carlos Irusta, Barry Hugman from England. A lot of British are great historians. I guess it's in their tradition. Well, they started boxing, you know. Remember Dick Maestro, Bill? He was a guy who really knew his
Yes.
stuff.
Yeah, I do.
And then Harry Haskup is around today. He's on top of things. There's a great organization, by the way, called IBRO. We should honor them. We've never done anything on their behalf with WBC, International Boxing Research Organization. A fellow named Don Cuoco.
International Boxing
Research Organization.
IBRO.
Yes, IBRO. And it was started by Herb Goldman, a guy, Tim Leone. Both are still living. And that guy is now the executive secretary, Dan Cuoco. They do a phenomenal job. I mean, they come out with a quarterly, and it's, you know, 60, 70 pages of photocopied results from newspapers of 100 years ago, but interesting articles analyzing fighters, doing biographies on famous people of the past who many of us forgot. But it's a great organization, and it keeps people, you know, abreast of what's going on. And of course, BoxRec was done phenomenal with their.
What is it that they do, IBRO?
IBRO, well, they do a lot of research. A lot of people call them up for research when they're doing books or magazine articles or movies or documentaries, and they provide a monthly newsletter. Well, the newsletter is 64 pages long, and they do a lot of research on boxing. If you ever want to do anything, you write into them, and they'll have a team get together and get you the research. You want to do something, for example, Mexican boxing in the 20s. Within 48 hours, they're going to have information for you, provided free, by the way. You know, it's just a group of people get together with no
so it's
no
a group.
income. Yes, it's a group.
I remember 20 years ago you used to talk about them.
Yeah, they do a phenomenal job, and as I said, it's all volunteer. I'm just trying to see if I got one of their journals here. You'll have to leave for a second. Look, 1 minute.
There's a webpage.
Yeah. Yeah, here we go. There you go. Yes. So I mean, they put these journals out. It gets basically once a month. It's about maybe less than $100 a year to join, and it's just filled with information. Well, you can see it there. You know, on fighters like Haugen, but going back to guys in the 1890s and 1900s. So if you want to do research, you've done a book, they'll publicize that. Anybody can write an article in. It's completely voluntary. And they do keep, the history of boxing alive, and history is ongoing. What we're saying today is history tomorrow. So it doesn't end. Yeah.
Very, very good. Thank you for bringing that up.
Mm-hmm.
Victor Silva. Victor Silva.
Yes.
Are you there?
Yes.
Victor, it's killing me that I don't have a picture and I'm missing seeing all this stuff.
Yeah.
Help me with my iPhone so I can get a picture.
We're going to send you the program so you can look at it tonight, Uncle Bill.
No, not just the program, my only president. I want to see your beautiful face.
I know this
I'm missing
program.
so much. The videos of your father and everything, I'm missing it. It's killing me. Victor, what do I push?
You just have to turn on your camera, look for touch your screen, and then you will find the camera on the bottom left.
Oh, okay. So you've got access now. Okay, we thought you were driving, so you couldn't get on the video. Now,
No, I'm not driving.
okay.
No, I'm not driving. I parked.
Okay. So
This
we'll
is
pick-
very important. I'm missing all these treasures.
So
Right,
Mauricio,
bottom left.
right. Is this how the virtual convention will work? Something like this?
Yes.
But in a much, much larger scale.
Wow.
So the virtual convention, you have to register.
Okay.
Otherwise, you don't have your access.
Okay.
When you access the page in the computer, you will have the main hall. You can access there,
Okay.
or you can go to the media room,
Right.
or you can go to the special meetings. So
Oh,
you
okay.
can select which room you enter.
Oh,
Once you enter, you will enter a page like this,
right.
but in a different setting.
Mhm.
We're going to have a lot of presentations, a lot of videos.
Mhm.
There will be possibility of interaction. We're going to have ratings, mandatories,
Oh, fantastic.
training for judges and referees, and
Okay.
many things. Please register, Don. You have to do it.
Okay, I'll do it as soon as we finish with this presentation. You
And,
know, I do it like 5 minutes before the convention begins, but I'll try to do it. Hey, by the way, we were remiss in not mentioning the passing of Dick Cole, one of the great WBC members and
Oh my God.
Oh,
executive council for many, many years, and it's a sad loss for us. Again, 1931, that miraculous year with your father and Bob Arum and Don King and Dick Cole, 𝗥𝗢𝗨𝗡, phenomenal that produced these many outstanding people in boxing history.
Yes, we are celebrating next year the year of boxing. In 2021, is going to be the year of boxing. And we're going to do celebrations every special date, and also every month we will have something special.
Mhm.
As you know, Ali Frazier won is 50 years
Yes.
on
yes.
March 1st.
Mhm,
The
mhm.
first $1 million gate, which you just mentioned,
Yes.
100 years.
Yes. Yeah.
Ray Robinson, 100-year birthday.
Yes. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we're going to do a lot of special things, and Dickie Cole was going to be one of them. His birthday is February. We were going to do something special, becoming 90 years old.
Mhm.
But now he's in a better place, and he will not suffer, and his family is very dear to everybody.
Mhm, mhm. Yes. My condolences to the family.
Yes.
it was always the thing that I look forward to most, maybe even more than the fight, is when I would go to Texas for a fight, and I would get to see Dickie Cole and talk and sit and regale with Dickie Cole. Just such a sweet man, a colorful man, and I know we all miss him already.
Well, to share a nice meal with Dickie Cole and Bill Kaplan has to be something unique.
Save that thought for when I pass.
No.
You know, George Foreman, years and years ago when we were in Caracas, when he fought Kenny Norton and knocked out Kenny Norton in March of 1974, we had by the swimming pool, we're in the hotel that we were staying. We were there for 3 weeks. There was a German chef in this hotel, and he would put out the most magnificent buffets every day for lunch, and I would play that buffet like it was a giant Wurlitzer chord organ, you know, the kind that they used to have in the theaters. And George gave me the name. He baptized me as Buffet Bill. And thank God I'm still able to see George again. And in George's eyes, I will always be Buffet Bill. And I guess, Mauricio, could you make up a green belt for the
Buffet Bill.
world champion of the buffet? World champion of the buffet. Yes, I'll go against anybody, even the aforementioned Butterbean. When it comes to the buffet, I am Buffet Bill.
You're the terror of the Las Vegas Strip, Bill.
They hate it when they see me come in.
They
hate it.
At the cash
Can you imagine those buffets used to be 99 cents.
Oh God, yeah.
All you could eat for 99 cents. Now it's like $32, $33, whatever.
That's because Bill
but,
bankrupted so many casinos with that. It was worse than a high roller getting lucky.
That's right. That's right.
Only because you don't have a camera, but I'm sure you're drooling when you mention this, Uncle Bill.
Well, I am, but you know, I'm wearing a mask, you know, and wear a mask. Even though I'm by myself sitting in my car, I'm wearing a mask, and I'll tell you why. Because I'm more handsome with the mask on, much more handsome. And my wife, Sandy, who, you know, we were kids, we got married in 1957. Sandy says, I really like the way you look in a mask. And then I looked in the mirror and I realized it covers up my 4 chins. You don't see my 4 chins anymore. So I wear a mask everywhere I go. Yes, I'm drooling, and I'm drooling right into the mask.
Very good.
So we don't have to see, Bill. Thank you for that.
I like to thank you so very much for your time. We have reached the end of the program, and I just want to say that I love you both very, very much. You were so close to my father's since I was a little kid. Uncle Bill took me to Disneyland. Don Majewski changed my diapers when I remember.
Goodness,
And
that's how old I am.
I really enjoy this program, and you have changed my week. It's going to be sensational, and I'm looking forward to talking to you very soon.
Thank
Victor,
you.
Pepe.
You know, Mauricio, we look forward to the time when we can all be together again at a fight.
Yes.
Hopefully it's sooner than later.
It will
And
be.
then dinner with a cheesecake
There you go.
after the fight.
Pick out the buffet of your choice, Bill.
Yeah, listen, Mauricio and Victor, would you consider getting dual citizenship, United States citizenship, so on November the 3rd you can vote against Trump, that Nazi Hitler bastard? I mean, would you consider that?
Oh, you got very, very political.
I know we're not supposed to be political, but we have Hitler ruling our country. You know, it's just awful.
He's
It's
born in
just
Queens,
awful.
where I'm
There,
from.
I got my
Born
2.
My borough. Hometown boy.
Love you so very much. See you soon.
Bye, God bless.
Very
Thank
nice
you.
to see you. Thank you
Welcome
very
to
much.
WBC Talks.
I'm going to go
Bye-bye.
right now.
My country, 'tis of the
Are you kneeling
sweet
with the same
land of liberty.
Good night.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye, everybody.